Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood. Today we have a happy little episode about the legendary painter and TV host Bob Ross. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell truth from fiction. Consider this. Bob Ross is probably as well known for his soft-spoken style as he was for his paintings. But would you believe that before he became everyone's favorite mellow mentor behind the easel, he was a military man barking out orders and yelling at people for every mistake? What do you think? Did Bob Ross spend years as the polar opposite of his on-screen persona? Was he a tough, loud drill instructor who had to scream at people all day? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Today's word is alla prima. That's ALLA PRIMA. Okay, so technically it's not a word, but a two-word phrase. But alla prima is an Italian phrase that translates to at first attempt. In the art world, it describes a painting technique where an artist applies wet paint on top of other layers of wet paint rather than waiting for each layer to dry. It's often called direct painting or wet on wet. Traditionally, many oil painting techniques required artists to wait days, even weeks, for one layer to dry completely before adding the next. Alla prima, though, is all about speed, spontaneity, and finishing the work in often a single session. This technique was central to Bob Ross's entire philosophy and the success of his show, The Joy of Painting. Ross would complete a single painting from start to finish in real time on his 30-minute episodes. Because he planned every painting ahead of time, never used a script, and there were no rehearsals or retakes, he could complete the entire 13-episode season in just a few days of filming. He famously began each painting by coating the canvas in a thin layer of a special paint he called liquid white, which made the surface slick and allowed the subsequent layers of color to blend together smoothly and effortlessly. This technique not only allowed him to film the episodes pretty quickly and complete the painting in just 30 minutes, it also made the painting seem less intimidating and more accessible to millions of aspiring artists watching from home. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about Bob Ross. Number 1. Bob Ross's famous hairstyle wasn't about the looks or fashion, it was a cost-saving measure. Believe it or not, that iconic fluffy hair wasn't Bob's natural look. After he left the military and was trying to make a living as a traveling art instructor, money was tight. To save on the cost of regular haircuts, he decided to get a perm. He quickly grew to dislike the hairstyle, but by that time, his painting career had taken off and the curly hairdo was already featured in the company's logo. It had become so much a part of his brand that he felt like he was just stuck with it. This accidental branding became a key part of his public identity. The combination of the perm, the calm voice, and the simple button-down shirt created a consistent and comforting presence that people could rely on week after week. There's a comfort in the familiar, and his consistent look became as much a part of the show's calming effect as his soothing voice and his satisfying painting technique. Number 2. Bob Ross created an estimated 30,000 paintings in his lifetime, but you almost never see one for sale. The Joy of Painting aired 403 episodes, and for every single episode, Bob Ross made 3 nearly identical paintings. He painted one before the show to use as a reference and a little bit of practice to figure out the composition and exactly what he wanted to do. The second one was created live during the 30-minute taping. And a third, more detailed version was created afterwards for his instructional books. So that alone would count for over 1,200 paintings just for the TV series. When you add in the paintings he created while teaching classes before his TV career and those he painted for leisure, the total number is estimated to be around 30,000. Despite this massive volume of work, his paintings are incredibly rare to find on the open market. That's because he never saw his art as a commodity to be sold. For him, the true value was in the act of creation itself. The vast majority of his paintings were either donated to PBS stations around the country to help them raise money, or they're now stored and cared for by Bob Ross Incorporated in Virginia. And you may be thinking he didn't need to sell his paintings because he made so much off the show, but here's a little bonus fact for you today. Bob Ross never earned a single dollar directly from that iconic TV show, The Joy of Painting. It may be hard to believe, given the show was on air for decades, but Bob Ross did it all for free. He never received a salary or payment from PBS for hosting the program. His income actually came from his company, Bob Ross Incorporated. The Joy of Painting was more of just a big advertisement that inspired viewers to buy his signature line of art supplies, from paints and brushes to easels and instruction books. He also created a network of certified instructors who he personally trained to teach his painting method. This clever business model allowed him to maintain his generous spirit on air while building a successful enterprise that continues to thrive even today. Number 3. If you look closely, you'll see that Bob Ross was missing a part of his left index finger. While his hands were on camera for hours on end, most viewers never noticed that Bob Ross was missing the top portion of his left index finger. The injury occurred when he was a teenager working with his father in the family carpentry business. While he was holding a piece of wood steady on a table saw, the blade caught his left index finger, severing the tip just above the first knuckle. While losing a part of a finger is far from ideal, particularly for someone whose hobbies require them to work with their hands, Ross was resilient. Viewers mostly didn't notice because he almost always used his left hand to hold his painting palette, which concealed the finger from the camera's view. Number 4. Bob Ross often featured rescue animals on his show, including squirrels, deer, and owls. While he's famous for painting happy little trees, Bob Ross also had a huge heart for happy little animals. He frequently brought rescued wildlife into his studio to feature on the show. He would gently hold them, talk to them in his soothing voice, and introduce them to his audience before returning them to wildlife rehabilitators. He had a special fondness for squirrels and raised several of them, including one named Peapod, who would often hang out in his shirt pocket. His deep love for the natural world wasn't just a theme for his landscapes, it was a fundamental part of who he was. Growing up in Florida, he was surrounded by nature and developed a profound respect for all living creatures. These animal guest stars were a genuine reflection of his gentle spirit and his desire to share the kindness and wonder of the animal kingdom with his viewers. And our fifth and final fun fact for today, the iconic Joy of Painting studio was just a simple room in a small house in Muncie, Indiana. Many people assume a show as popular as The Joy of Painting was filmed in a big TV studio in the city somewhere, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The show was produced by a small PBS station, WIPB, located in Muncie, Indiana. For most of its run, the series was filmed in a converted studio inside the Lucius L. Ball House, a historic home that had been donated to the local university. The set was incredibly minimalist, just Bob, his easel, a black curtain, and a couple of lights. This unpretentious setting was actually one of the secrets of the show's success. With no audience, no fancy graphics or distractions, the viewer's focus was entirely on Bob's calm presence and the magical transformation happening on the canvas. The quiet, intimate atmosphere made it feel like you were getting a private lesson from a close friend. Now for some news you can use. Today's tip is about adopting Bob's famous philosophy of happy little accidents. It's simple but incredibly powerful. When you're working on something, whether it's a painting, a school project, or even cooking a meal, when you make a mistake, your first instinct might be to get frustrated or want to start over. Bob's advice is to pause, look at the mistake, and see it as an opportunity. That misplaced brushstroke isn't ruining the painting. It's a happy little accident that can become a beautiful cloud or a happy little tree. You can apply this to almost anything. Spill some juice on your drawing, maybe you can turn that stain into a unique shape or pattern in the artwork. Wrote the wrong word in an essay, maybe it'll lead you to a more interesting sentence or spark a new idea. By reframing mistakes as unexpected opportunities, you can reduce stress and anxiety, boost your creativity, and become more resilient. It's a trick that turns moments of panic into moments of possibility, which is not only good for art, but just life in general. Now, I can't get through an episode about Bob Ross without giving you a painting tip, so here's a strategy that makes it easier to create a strong sense of space in your landscapes. Always work from the back to the front. This means you should paint the objects that are farthest away from you first and layer the closer objects on top. Start with your sky because it's the farthest thing away. Then lay down the distant, hazy mountains. After that, you might paint the foothills that sit in front of the mountains, followed by large trees that are in front of the hills. This simple method is key to creating a convincing sense of depth in the painting. By layering things like this, you ensure that the foreground elements overlap the background, which is how your eyes perceive distance in the real world. If you paint a big tree in the foreground first, trying to paint the sky and mountains around that is incredibly difficult and often gets kind of messy. Following this back-to-front rule gives you a clear roadmap and makes building a complex scene feel simple and logical. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked if it was true that before he was everybody's favorite calm painter, Bob Ross was a loud military man. Well, that's a fact. He spent 2 decades as an Air Force sergeant who had to yell at people all day. Part of his duties, particularly at a base in Alaska, involved being, in his own words, quote, the guy who makes you scrub the latrine, the guy who makes you make your bed, the guy who screams at you for being late to work, end quote. It was part of his job to be tough and loud. He later said that after years of having to raise his voice, he made a promise to himself that after he left the military, he would never scream again. The calm, gentle person we saw on TV was the result of a conscious decision to live a quieter and more peaceful life. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about Bob Ross with me today. Be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.